now AI is eating software. So it's an entirely new phase of productivity, of chances, but also for an organization and what kind of leadership organizations should prepare with their immense legacy systems to also embrace this kind of technology. And that's not easy.
How's it, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Exponential Africa, where we'll bring you the best thought leadership, innovation, and technology from around the globe. And today on Exponential Africa, we're exploring one of the most profound shifts of our time, the move from AI as a tool to AI as an autonomous agent. And joining me is Carlo van der Weijer, who is the director of the Eindhoven Institute. He is a global thought leader on mobility, AI, and digital transformation, a singularity expert, and somebody who spent years at the intersection of technology and real-world deployment. And Carlo isn't just thinking about the future, he is living and breathing and actively shaping how AI integrates into our cities, our companies, and our daily lives. And today we're going to be diving into Agentic AI and the future of leadership, what happens when machines don't just assist us, but start making decisions alongside us. Carlo, so great to be with you. How are you doing?
Good to see you. Hi, good to see you.
All the way from Eindhoven.
Yes, the high-tech part of the Netherlands, where we make the machines that produce the chips. So we are a little bit in the beginning of the entire Moore's law stuff, and everything that's going on over there. So welcome in Eindhoven.
I mean, it's pretty phenomenal. Maybe it's just actually to spend just a quick intro on exactly what your institute is doing. Yeah. I mean, I know you've got hundreds of researchers, working in AI daily.
Yeah, that's so at the Eindhoven University of Technology, we have all these faculties, mechanical engineering and physics and all the other ones. But we have a couple of institutes that have to make sure that these different faculties and these different competences find each other in order to do even better research on teams that actually overlap these faculties. And like energy, but AI is one other one. And I mean, we are just making sure here that we are just giving an extra boost on all the research that's being done on these AI systems. So I'm heading the Eindhoven AI Systems Institute. And it's a whirlwind at this moment what's happening on AI. So it's nice to see, and we also help companies in order to adopt everything and all the potential of AI. And it's an interesting times now because you really start to see that also because of the agentic AI, companies get more productive. We talked about that for years, and the tilting moment is happening at this moment. So it's really interesting times.
It's a really interesting. I mean, I think we're hearing it from every angle. We're hearing about a new AI development almost daily now, and like these AIs are moving from tools to agents. And what you just said is we're hearing a lot about agentic AI. What does that actually mean in practical terms?
Yeah, there's different definition of it, but it's mainly that you don't give it a task, or you don't ask it a question. You just give it a task, and it will carry out the task. So don't make me a report, but just organize that we make a new report with different people, and it will set out some mails to other people. It can make reservations and all that kind of stuff. So it's more a kind of an employee instead of some tool that you can use to make yourself more productive, which we already know for the last couple of years. But now new employees start popping up. So that's a new phase. And it is one of the reasons that you now see companies that do embrace AI to be much more productive than the other companies.
And I mean, what's going on in terms of some real world examples, maybe? What are you seeing like mobility systems or logistics or traffic optimization related to agentic AI?
Yeah, so my background is in mobility. That's actually where I came from. But now last couple of years, I dive deeper and deeper into AI. But indeed, mobility. The metaphor is, of course, the self-driving car, which you can see that theoretical models when they come into the real physical world, that's very messy. That's a little bit different than demos. But you see this step from demos to the real world is being made now. And you see it with the self-driving cars, although it's not really scaling up because of all this physics that you need there. But you also see it in the humanoids. That's also a very good metaphor, but also a very nice explanation how AI turns into a real life when you see humanoids entering the job market in the next couple of years. But mainly these these agents, as examples, what happening is that you see now that in the software development, that AI writing software code at this moment is really happening at this moment. So 10 years ago, everybody said, "Oh, you go study programming. We only need software people because software is eating the world." Now AI is eating software, so it's an entirely new phase of productivity, of chances, of developments, but also for on organization and what kind of leadership that you need. And that's what we already previously discussed. And it's also nice to actually touch on that one, because organizations should prepare with their immense legacy systems to also embrace this kind of technology, and that's not easy.
It's definitely not easy, but it is changing at this incredibly fast pace. I mean, I know you've been speaking about
Yeah.
driverless cars and AI in vehicles and mobility for many years. I think I've heard you speak about it for over 10 years now.
Yeah,
And
yeah. It's not. I don't want to make this a told you so story, but so much the predictions came out quite well. It's there. We have these cars that can drive themselves, but the dream, the Silicon Valley dream, that this would also replace car ownership, that's not really happening. So we will have cheaper taxis in the future, but there's this one thing that I disagree with most of those people, is that then people start swapping their car for, "Oh, I don't need a car because there's an abundance of robo taxis that can drive me cheaply from A to B." Nah, there will be cheaper taxis, which is nice to have cheaper and better and safer taxis, but people will still own their car, especially now that the car takes out the nasty bits of driving. And this is this theoretical model entering in real life, where physical world is actually have some different rules, and that you see that people tend to like ownership of a car because you can leave your stuff in it. It's the moving part of your house, and the extension of your cave kind of thing. It smells like you and all the other stuff. That's what people like, and especially with these cars getting more comfortable because of all this autonomous technology and much safer. Yeah, I don't think that this robo taxi, it will happen, but it will not going to replace car ownership, and that's a discussion that we already have for 10 years, and it's going in that direction. But maybe in a general rule, what's happening at this moment, which I think is interesting to discuss here, is how we are going to work together with these new technologies and these new machines. And this is a kind of new balance between us and these agents that are going to help us. And if you could relate this to, everybody uses ChatGPT and all the other language models. What you see there is that, okay, so my wife is a teacher in Dutch, a language teacher, and she also found out from, "Oh, this is not going in the right direction. That these pupils are going to be the most stupid pupils, came up with the best essays at a certain moment. So, yeah, they're not gonna learn a new one, but how to write a decent essay in the future." I said, "Nah, but what you see now," and they're starting to embrace it, because if you do something with ChatGPT, you ask it a question with a prompt, and then it comes up with something. Said, "Oh, no, that's not what I meant. Try to focus more on that one, and forget about this one." And you reprompt and you reprompt, and your prompt will be this long, and the piece you're going to write is only this. But your intelligence moves to the prompt. That's where your genuine intelligence is. Then all the coloring between the lines and applying language rules, that's just regular work. That's what the AI does. And in the end, you have to take ownership for whatever you write. You have to check it, take ownership, because it makes mistakes, it does hallucinations. And this is a good metaphor to what's happening, I think, in any job. That you still have to ask the right questions. That's where the genuine intelligence is. You have to check and take ownership. All the work in the middle, that's where the AI agents are jumping in. So this metaphor with large language models, how we use it to make you much more productive and to get the quality of your essays much better and your pieces you're going to write, that's going to apply to any job now with these agentics, the agents coming up. But that means that your craftsmanship is needed even more, because that's exactly in the prompting and into the checking. So we need craftsmanship there, and it's going to be assisted with AI. But the difference is not in the middle part. The difference was already there where the craftsmanship is. And this is the thing that's happening now, and why people start embracing AI as well, because it makes that job, in most cases, even better.
yeah, I think that's quite an interesting point. Is that we have to look at these models and use them to our best ability, and it really is changing the workforce. Like what do you think is the biggest gap between AI demos and real world deployment today?
Yeah, that's what you see now, and that's also the metaphor of the self-driving car. And in a lab situation and on a closed circuit, it's perfect. And also the first demos are always fantastic, but then the real world is very messy, and with all kind of edge cases, etc. That's also where these self-driving cars bump into. And the first days you see these fantastic demos of everyone being very enthusiastic, and rightfully so, because it's very impressive technology. But then these stupid edge cases come through where the car makes mistakes, just as humans do as well. But yeah, with a car, with a machine taking responsibility of having to take responsibility is a little bit a different case. And this is also from demos, which always work perfect. When you start using agents in companies, then you have to work with the legacy systems. You have to set guide rails where the AI agent can work and where it can't work. And that's all boring, messy stuff, which you have to go through in order to actually harvest all the benefits from these agents. And that's a fixed demo that we also now sense, which doesn't mean that you have to stop with it and don't do it. When so go back 200 years when we had the first weaving machines, there was a very big reaction to that one as well, because the weaving machines made maybe in the beginning made so much mistakes that the weavers had to come in and actually correct the mistakes, and they needed more weavers actually than before they had the machines. That did change at a certain moment. After a couple of years they got good enough. Now nobody wants to go back to the hand weaving. And I do sincerely think that we are now in this phase that the machines are getting better and better, that we don't have to fix as much as that we had to do before, and that we really start to actually harvest the potential in productivity. And if you don't do it, then you have a big problem as well, because somebody that will manage this messy part, they're going to be ahead of you.
And I mean, I don't know if you saw recently about the self-driving accident actually in China. There was a
Yeah,
there was a kid that was hit apparently.
that's one, and there was a big standstill of all the robo taxis in Wuhan, so they all came to a stop, which caused some accidents that didn't harm anyone. But yeah, and that's the accidents we see. I don't know if there's any more that is going to happen, because but yeah, here in the Netherlands now also we have the Tesla full self-driving car homologated 2 weeks ago. And then in the first, you saw this impressive movies, which are really impressive. But now also the mistakes are popping up, and the
Did you
footage
get
of
one?
that one.
Did you get a Tesla? You had one. You had.
I'm going to drive. I had a few, yeah, but not at this moment. I'm going to have to test drive the FSD next week, entire week. So I'll send you the footage on that one. But it is still, and this is an essential thing also for a metaphor with using agents in your company. It's still level 2 plus, as we call it. So it is always, and you got a screen that you really have to acknowledge that you are responsible for whatever the car does. So it is still something that you cannot take a nap or something. You still are. You have to own the system and be responsible, and that limits the benefits. Of course, it gives you a comfortable ride, but it limits the benefits to somehow. It's like buying a dishwasher, so you don't have to wash the dishes anymore, but you have to watch the dishwasher when it's operating for the entire 1.5 hour. That's not that's not really helping. That's a little bit more comfort, but it doesn't save you time as such, etc. So we're still waiting for this last step for the rollout of the full self-driving, and that's because real world is messy. Same goes for companies when they have to embrace AI agents. It's not only technology; it's also making them fit in the real world in this messy thing of procedures and legacy rules and all this kind of stuff. And that has to be done. It's a messy, it's boring work, but it has to be done. Which on itself gives a large benefit of all these AI native startups, these small companies that started on AI, they don't have a legacy system to transfer to the AI agents, which is why you will see some new companies popping up here.
Totally. I mean, I think you mentioned quite a few interesting points there. Is that you still need that human in the loop, and the
Yeah.
best sort of flow at the moment is starting with the human, setting the context, briefing it, and then letting the AI do its work and then reviewing it at the end. That feels like the most efficient way of using agentic AI at the moment, or working with it in the
Yeah.
process at the same time. But you need the
That's
human in the loop.
that's true because I don't think that AI agents can even take ownership, not on the short term, but also not on the long term. And you have to give it assignments. So we're really posing, and this is also for leadership. You're going to have to ask the right questions, and you don't need the answers, but you have to ask questions and be able to take ownership at the end. And this is the kind of leadership that efficient companies already had, also with their employees. So this holocracy kind of organizations that where you just empower people instead of trying to control and command them. And this gets a real impulse with these new agents joining your workforce. Um, these agents are not going to, yeah, you just have to tell them what to do, but your people as well. They're not going to ask you what to do. They ask you why they have to do something. You have to be able to explain the higher goal behind it, because that's why what motivates people. All the stupid regular stuff is going to be done by these AI agents.
You know,
So to steer your people is going to be totally different than it used to be.
and I've been hearing from some people in corporates, in organizations. They've got this context switching fatigue. It's almost
Oh,
like because you can do so much more with the AI, you're briefing the AIs to do so many things that you actually get tired
yeah,
on all on having to compartmentalize your own mind into doing so many more things. It's actually it's a new type of skill for humans to be able to.
it is true, and it is there's also it's a pitfall as well because you can. I sense that myself as well when I started a year ago or something, or a little bit more. I started to work with all these new tools that just came up every week. You had new tools in order to be done. Now, in the old days, when you had a new idea, and I know you also full of ideas always. I also tend to have a lot of ideas, but in the old days, you said, "Oh, that would be nice if hey, that could be a thing," and but I don't have time for that, so you put it on the shelf. Now you think that could be a thing, and you start working with these tools and these agents, and then you got another saucer on a stick turning, these circus acts kind of thing, where you have
The next
so,
day.
so yes, you're going to be twice as productive, but you also work 1.5 times more, which makes you 3 times more productive. But it's going to cost you at a certain moment. You really have to limit yourself, etc. So I fully recognize this. This is a danger. This is one of the many dangers by when you embrace agentic AI. So the other one is that you just cancel all the junior work. That's what a lot of people tend to replace juniors by an AI because that's the stupid regular work what they done. But if you stop hiring juniors, you're not going to have seniors in a couple of years. So that's a very short-sighted solution. But if you're well aware of all these dangers and also mitigate on that one, then in the end you're going to have a better company and also have better work because the work in the middle that AI takes over was not the work that made a difference already beforehand, but it's also not the most interesting work for most people.
Totally agree. Totally agree. And I think that's a great segue into sort of where leadership needs to be looking,
Yeah,
and how do we create this trust in AI decision making within these organizations, and with our people. And it's almost like a new role for leaders that have to think about sense making and ethics and direction.
yeah,
Where do you see leadership look when AI systems are making decisions alongside you? How does leadership actually deal with this?
yeah. Actually it puts it is a huge increase in speed of a trend that was already going on. That we already give more empowerment to people, and you didn't like 50 years ago. Then you were the boss because you had the information and the right friends. Now everything is so transparent. That's not going to bring you to the top. It is that people want you to be successful, etc. And they trust you, and all these kind of more soft kind of skills are much more important. So it is a revival of the holocracy, which is a rather flat organization with a lot of trust. With one big warning, and take it from an old man with some experience. Um, in times of crisis, holocracy collapses. That's what I experienced already a few times. I'm in some supervisory board of companies, big corporates, when there was a hostile takeover. We had a big fire in another company when I was a supervisory board. Um, so every time when I see a crisis happening, then you see these very well empowered people, these clever people that know how to do things. They just want to chase a goal, but they immediately swap into, please, boss, tell me what to do. In times of crisis, they want to have a command and control. And I also was a kind of empowering kind of leader. I was kind of surprised that I had to shift to command and control leadership during crises. But as long as there's not a crisis, so we always make sure that you have a backup system that knows how to work in command and control system, but try to strive as much as possible for holacracy, because holacracy actually it really strives with this kind of AI system where all the information is available to anyone and all this transparency is there. But indeed, a complete new kind of leadership where you have to be much more goal oriented and explain people why they have to do stuff. You don't have to explain them anymore what to do.
Totally agree. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's such a shifting landscape, and it's this new dance between these hybrid teams of humans and AIs.
yeah,
Um,
and exciting because as I said, craftsmanship is surfacing. So why not
so
embrace that?
European, that's a great example. It's like Europe has always been this place of craftsmanship. I mean, I think in Eindhoven, there's a sense of like the technology craftsmanship of the
Yeah.
Netherlands, and like you say, there's craftsmanship. You know, it used to be passed down from generation to generation. How's it changing now? This idea of craftsmanship um, in Europe, and then how do you see regions like Africa participating in this AI-driven future?
Yeah, that is so the craftsmanship. Yes, it floats, and that's yeah, we have the Philips heritage. That's what Eindhoven's about. So Philips came here for cheap labor once, like Siemens came to the south of Germany for cheap labor. That's how it started, and then they attracted a lot of clever people in order to do all the inventions, etc. And now this because of that, the south of Germany is the most flourishing part of Germany, and the south of the Netherlands is also kind of flourishing. Now we have ASML and NXP and all these companies that's kind of spin-off companies of what Philips used to be. So yeah, we're still floating on that craftsmanship. And the thing is with Africa, what I also said before, there's also a lot of legacy in all these kind of systems, and implying and welcoming AI agents in the legacy systems, as I said before, is kind of a messy job. And it's out of the lab. It's all, as I said, messy and boring work in order to regularly fix this AI to legacy systems. And you cannot just throw all your legacy systems overboard, because that's also where your heritage is, etc. And in Africa, you can leapfrog on this one if you just start with your extremely young population, etc. That is already that grown up with AI, etc. So there's quite a bit of leapfrogging possible there if you don't have to stick to big legacy systems when you invent a new company. And if you then have also a very young AI eager kind of population, that's a recipe for potential success.
I mean, I think some of the things too we need to think about in Africa is this idea of compute, our own frontier models. You know, I don't know what you feel about sovereignty with AI, or
Yeah,
our
that's
structure. Or,
that's a good one. I don't have a sharp opinion on that one because, yeah, of course, the United States and China is leading this discussion. Also in Europe, we're a little bit in the middle, and they keep on building data centers, etc. I haven't got a clue where that's heading for. Maybe the bottleneck in the future will be energy, which um, will be have to be, because you cannot scale up energy in the old fossil age anymore. That's not scalable, and not on this very fast term. So it has to be sustainable kind of energy. Now you have a relatively predictable 12-hour day, which we don't have here in Northern Europe. So we haven't got our winters are too dark in order to fully run on sustainable energy. And that's an example. And also the surface that you need for solar panels, which I think in the next couple of decades will be the leading source of energy. That's an essential asset, of course, apart from your young people and not having the heritage of old companies. So energy wise, there's a big leapfrogging to do as well. At a certain moment, it's if you look at the top potential countries for cheap energy, then there's a lot of African countries over there. So that's another thing. But yeah, I don't have an opinion if building more and more and more and more data centers is going to be the future, because it comes with quite a bit of a cost. So yeah, curious where that's heading. And now we're all talking about large language models, and that kind of seem that's a China US game at this moment. All these models. The next phase is going to be world models. So large language models can easily predict the next word, and in a very sophisticated way that can lead to the entire books that they're writing at this moment. Which with world models, they don't predict the next word. They predict the next thing that's going to happen if they see something happening, and that's still a greenfield in order to start, etc. That's a new world, and it's extremely more difficult, but it is something that is going to really, really affect us. That's what you need to really have automate everything in life, and all the rest is apart from writing books and essays. And this is still a field to be conquered, etc. And as I said, with your AI nativity, etc., there's still some chances to pick up. And as AI is actually replacing a lot of knowledge, etc. So and schooling is going to be totally different, because you don't have to have the best organized school system anymore. So you're still building on that one in order to catch up, but maybe that's not going to be the bottleneck anymore. So there's a lot of wisdom in these AI systems. So you don't have to know everything that's in the AI. You don't have to be very good at just making simple sums, since we have the calculator. So now with AI, it's a total new kind of access to schooling systems as well. Everything is available online.
It's fascinating. I think the speed of agentic AI adoption is just insane. How people, I'm hearing it every day, in all walks and all ages. Actually, even some
Yeah.
of my daughter is constantly on AI and always ask, can we ask Chat or Grok or
And
Alexa?
she's 4 or 5,
Answers.
isn't she?
She's 5. Yeah.
My gosh.
She's already an AI expert. She's getting ready to build her own
Yeah,
3D worlds.
and she's gonna feel old when your son grows up a little bit more. And she probably your son, who's now almost 1, I guess, he's
Yeah.
going to make her feel old probably in a couple of years. So that's how
I mean,
fast it's going.
I think that's
But
the great to sort of.
yeah, a
Sorry.
little bit structure in this mess on how people trying to embrace this AI. Just one very practical tip is that you could. I gave you this framework of what's in the prompt, what's the work in the middle, and what's in the checking. Because the genuine intelligence is needed in the prompt and the checking, and the AI should be applied in the work in the middle. You can easily ask one of your ChatGPT or Gemini or Perplexity or Claude or whatever. Ask in this metaphor of that the genuine intelligence is in the prompt and the check, and the work in the middle has to be taken over by AI. Ask all these models on what for your job. Give your job to a model. Says what appears in the prompting. What's the typical work that's going to be there? What's the typical work that's going to be in the checking? And what's the typical work of my current job that will be in the work in the middle? And if you have to start embracing and doing pilots with AI, start with all this stuff that's in the middle. Because the first thing, if you have this overview, and it's a very easy question to ask, then you probably also see that all this work in the middle was not really what did excite you. You already see the things on the left and the right where my craftsmanship is near. That's what I already liked in my job. That's what people's reaction is. And if you start piloting in the middle, and I do this now with a lot of companies, then the ball starts rolling. People start understanding what AI is about. That's not a threat to their job. It's actually an enrichment to their job. And that's a clean tip. So ask one of your models, your favorite models, what in this framework of prompting, work in the middle, and checking is in these three categories for your job, and start experimenting and piloting in the middle, and be happy what you see on the left and the right. You have a problem if you say, oh, that work in the middle, that's actually what I liked, this repetitive kind of work. then you have a problem, because then probably you didn't already make a big mistake, a big difference in your company. But if you like this kind of repetitive work, and yeah, that's a problematic. But most people do not end up there.
Wow, no, I think that's fantastic. That's brilliant. I'm going to try that straight after this, and I think it's a great tip there. So let's end off with just some quick fire. I want to ask you a couple of questions. Give me a quick answer, just to see where you stand on it. So tell me one industry AI will completely reshape first, in your opinion.
The first industry that will be reshaped by AI, I think the software companies and all the remote work. So if work can go through an internet cable, so it apparently doesn't need human interference, then that's going to be replaced by AI. So if
And
you have a remote work job, that's a problem, yeah. And
what's
the
one
computer
thing?
programming.
Sorry?
And the computer programming, that's also massively affected.
What's one thing leaders are getting wrong about AI?
What I got wrong about AI is that's going to change everything tomorrow, and that the other company is ahead of them. Everybody thinks the other one is ahead of them, and in most cases, that's not so much the case. So you're not too late. Start embracing it, and don't fear it, because sincerely, it's going to make you much more productive, a better company, and it's in general, it's the better work that's going to surface.
Awesome. And last one is one skill every young African should learn today.
One skill every young, yeah, I don't have to say they have to be curious, because I think that you're already you're already more curious people than normally. But one skill they should learn is how humans work. Go back to evolution. What fuels humans, etc. Because that's the only constant that we have in the future. Know what people like, and how. Look at Maslow's pyramid. What drives us? That's based on evolution, and it's, I think, the only constant that we have for the future. So your EQ is going to be much more important than your IQ. So
Love that. And you got a great
learn a bit of biology, because that's the only constant that we have in life.
So thank you so much, Carlo. I think what's clear from this conversation is that we're not just entering this AI-powered world. We're entering a world where intelligence itself is becoming distributed. And the real question is not going to be whether AI will transform our industries. It's going to be whether we'll redesign our systems, our leadership, and our thinking fast enough to unlock its true potential. Because in the end, it's not about technology. It's about the outcomes we choose to create with it. Carlo, thank you so much for helping us make sense of what comes next. We really appreciate your time, and we hope to visit you in Eindhoven at the AI Institute one of these days. We'll see you soon in South Africa.
I'll take any excuse to come over, you know that.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Cheers.
Thank you.